Wow. Ops, rather. Thank you. My name is Bridget Ofomi, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar session. And we have Jacob A. AJALA on the call. So Jacob is a data analyst / program director at the Data Immersed community. So I'm just going to read his profile so that we know more about him before we get started. So Jacob is a data analyst, visualization expert, and educator passionate about transforming numbers into narratives that drive action. With a background in computer science and engineering and a specialization in business analytics and optimization, it helps businesses turn complex data sets into clear, actionable insights. As a data analyst at Bayan Technologies, Jacob leverages tools like Excel, SQL, Power BI, and Python to uncover patterns, optimize business strategies, and improve decision making. His work is centered on making data understandable and usable, ensuring that organizations move beyond raw numbers to meaningful impact. Beyond his technical expertise, Jacob is deeply committed to mentorship, teaching, and demystifying data for non-technical professionals. He has trained over 500 individuals in data analytics, empowering product managers, business leaders, and aspiring analysts to harness the power of data visualization. As a program director, he also leads the Data Immersed community, an initiative focused on equipping beginners with the skills and confidence to navigate the data space. At the core of Jacob's work is a belief that data without interpretation is noise, but data with a story becomes a strategic asset, whether through training sessions, mentorships, or hands-on consulting. It helps businesses and individuals bridge the gap between data and decision making. Hi, Jacob. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. Good evening.
All
Good
right. Good
evening. How are you?
evening. I'm very
It's
well.
good to be here.
Yeah, you now have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's a great privilege to be here with you guys, with intelligent, smart people who move the product world. And when I got the first invitation, I was like, okay, what am I going to speak about? And so I'm not used to speaking with slides. I'm a very hands-on person, so I was hoping it was going to be interactive and, me being hands-on, but I got a request for slides and I had to come up with something. So I hope that the slides actually meet what we're going to be talking about. And I hope that we're able to have a very interactive and productive conversation. Just like she said, let me just start sharing my slide. All right, great. So like she said, my name is Jacob. I prefer just to be called Jacob. All the whole, High and all that title stuff, you can just put that aside. So yeah, I work as a data analyst. I studied computer science and engineering. I graduated 5 years ago from a BTech degree with a BTech degree from India, and then I started my analytics journey after that. I've been a consultant and I've been a data analytics trainer after that, lectured for a while at Cabinet University. So data, basically my life revolves around data, and I currently run a program which is for those who are interested in getting into data. We take them right from beginning to becoming experts. And it's been an interesting journey training people, seeing them succeed and seeing them telling the data journey. It's been quite impressive. And then beyond just working with individuals, I also work with organizations, helping organizations turn that data into profits, which is ultimate goal of any other or any organization. So today I'm just going to be working with you and seeing how we can turn those data that you have with the products that you're working on, and how to create actionable insights and how to help your organization get the best out of the best value out of the products that you're pushing out. And hopefully your users are able to appreciate what you make out of the data that they give to you. So, but before we get started, I just want to ask you a question. The projects that you're currently working on, what's the most important metric on that product that you're currently working on? You can, if you could just unmute, let's just have a conversation before we get into whatever we're working. So that could actually drive the conversation. So I just want to hear from you, what project you're currently working on, what's the most important metric on that project that you're working on? I'm not sure if you guys are dropping in the chat. I'm not able to see the chat because I am sharing. So if you could just unmute and speak to me.
Yes. Who wants to go first? Yeah, please go on. Toby, you can go on.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Toby. I work in agency banking. The most important metric for me is total number of active agents, right? The agents.
Total number of?
Total number of active agents.
Okay.
Actively transacting agents. Yeah.
All right. That's great. So how do you collect your data?
Generally, I mean, when you say how do we collect our data, I'm trying to understand. Do you mean in terms of the platform we use for the visualization?
So how do you get that data? How do you gather the data you use to get that metric?
Oh, okay. We track everything the user does, right? And
Okay.
the DevOps and the data analytics team, they have a data pipeline that streams everything to the dashboard that we're able to use to visualize. So on the technical angle, I may not be able to speak in depth, but yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank
you.
Jacob, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, no, I just wanted to add that I like the fact that you're asking questions. So yes, please feel free to make the session as interactive as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then there's a comment here for you as well. So Favor was asking, do use cases count? Case studies rather.
Yes,
do they
definitely.
count?
Yes, they do count. They do count,
Yeah,
definitely.
so Favor, you can go ahead and share yours.
Okay, hi. So I'm working on a case study for InDrive, and one of the metrics I'll say is important would be pricing gauge. I don't know how. Do I need to should I explain that? I'm so sorry. I'm like very new to this, so you have to.
No, that's fine. We're all learners, so that's why we're here.
I'll probably just give context. The idea here is to most people that have used InDrive or have tried using InDrive will see that most of the time when you put in an amount for your trip, drivers decline regardless of app recommendations or whatnot. So I was basically trying to find a solution to the, I'll say a gap between when users or riders put in the amount and why what they call them, drivers decline the offers regardless. So one of the metrics key would be how many bids they do not decline after proposed solutions. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting metric. I think I'll speak to that later on as well. But that's very important metric. I appreciate your sharing. Let's take one more before we go ahead. Who else wants to share?
So Toby Lola, you have your hands raised, so you can share.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Subilola. Community project manager pivoting to product management. Now the so I'm going to be working with a brand to help manage the community for a period of time. And so to answer the question, I think that for me right now, based on the knowledge that I have, the most important metric or the the most important metric is engagement for them.
Okay.
Yes, because that's where the problem is. And then how do I get access to how do I get data? It's on WhatsApp. It's a very, very active, big community. And so you can download. And that's actually why I took this, because I wanted to be able to, at the end of the month, be able to create, use that data visualization tools to create something, so that the owner who is not tech savvy can see clearly that, okay, these are the top this, because I saw someone do it and I was like, wow, you can do it. So when I saw that, people in products was having this, I said, let me just, join. So that's why I'm here. And so the most important is engagement. You can download it as an admin on WhatsApp. You can download whatever conversations, and it comes out as an Excel file. And then that's what you now use, apparently, I think, to do the data visualization. Yeah.
All right. That's great. That's great. Thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate that. So basically the essence here is that data is very important, right? I usually tell people that data is like crude oil, and visualization is like the refinery that turns it into valuable insights. So if for product managers, right, why do we need visualization, right? It's because we want to drive valuable insights. And as product managers, if without data, if you have that product and you're not getting data out of that product, it's as though you're shooting in the dark. And every organization today, regardless of the size of any organization, we all use data. In fact, forget organizations, individuals, we use data. We track our monthly expenses, we track our electricity usage, we track our data usage. All of that is data. And we track it and want to know, okay, where is this going? Why is this happening? How is this happening if I do this? So to some extent, we all do data analysis and we all work with visualization to some extent. Now, the issue now is, what's the best visualization that can lead to actionable insights, right? And so every organization either has a product or they have a service. And if a product that has bad data is like a guided missile that's aimed at the wrong target. So you have the data, but it's bad data. It's not properly aligned. It's not properly, cleaned up. It's like you're aiming at the wrong target. And before we came into this generation of data, we've worked with gut feeling. I just feel this is right. So you'd come up with in fact, before you come up with you just say, I think they're going to want this product. You don't have any data to back up with your gut feeling. You don't have any data to work on your market research, whether it's a viable product or a viable business or it's something. You just say, okay, it's a gut feeling. Gut feeling doesn't work anymore, right? Using gut feeling, using your opinion, it doesn't work in today's world anymore. And with that data, Edward Deming said it's like as though you're just another person with an opinion, and that's what's definitely happened. So in today's digital landscape, where everything now is about data, right? Product managers like yourselves, you can no longer rely just on your intuition. You can no longer rely just on your feelings to make decisions. Now you need to have strong data to back up whatever decisions that you're making. And so data has become the backbone for every product strategy, right? It has become the backbone for helping product managers to understand user behavior, to optimize your features in any product that you're taking out, to track your success, track your user engagement, just like you mentioned earlier on. So all of that has become the backbone of everything that you're measuring. But raw data can sometimes be overwhelming. The last speaker, talking about getting that data from WhatsApp. Imagine you have all these data, hundreds of thousands of rows, right? It can get overwhelming to analyze. And so that's why data visualization now comes in, helps you to summarize that data, right? Helps you to communicate insights more clearly. So sometimes raw data it isn't so what's the word I'm looking for? It's not so persuasive, right? But when you start telling story with that data through visualizations, now you tell a compelling, persuasive story. And Data visualization helps us to tell those stories through whether it's a chart, whether it's heat maps, whether it's funnels and all of that. It helps you to tell that story. And that's where you now come in, the use of data visualizations, the tools that you're using. That's where you now do all of that and transform all of that complex data, all of that data that's overwhelming, that maybe wants to swallow you up, and you're thinking, okay, well, how do I tell this to my stakeholders, right? That's where data visualization now comes in and helps you to transform it into clear, but not just clear, but also actionable insights that your manager, your stakeholders, your supervisors, and whoever is looking at that data can understand just by looking at it at a single glance. And what I usually tell people is that if I look at your visualization, and if I do not understand it within the first 3 to 5 minutes, you've not done a proper way of communicating. So as a as a project manager, if you want your stakeholders to just look at it and say, oh yeah, I get this, right? Just by looking at it. So take, for example, Netflix, right? They use data to personalize recommendations and also increase engagement, right? They leverage the power of visualization extensively to personalize your experiences. So they're not using charts, which is what a lot of people have understood visualization to be. So I think quite a number of us have used Netflix, either one way or the other, we've used Netflix. So they don't use charts. But what you'll see is something like, because you watched XYZ show, then they're going to show you series of movies that they think you're going to like. So that's another way of visualization. It's not just those charts. So you see, when you see something like that, you're now say, okay, I think, yeah, I like this. Because you watch this thriller. These are new thrillers that are coming that we think you're going to like. And then they're also, by analyzing your interactions, your watch history, the places that you post in a movie, what else do they track? The shows that you've abandoned, whether you started a show and you did not complete, they're tracking all of those to give you the best experience. So they've created a platform that creates a predictive model that doesn't just gather data, but it also suggests content that's tailored specifically to you. The same with your mobile phones. Sometimes I tell people that your mobile phones is not yours, because there's nothing secret anymore. You might be having a conversation with someone, and the next thing you know is someone you're getting an advert from an organization saying, oh, here is this product that you want to buy. I don't know if it's happened to any of you. It happens to me a lot. I just had a conversation with a friend, and the next thing they're suggesting that product to me. It's because they're tracking your usage, they're tracking your communication, and then they can now use it to market whatever that you want. So the recommendation system for Netflix, right? It's powered by visually intuitive passwords, right? Not passwords, I said password, dashboards, right? That has led to user engagement. When Netflix started, the user engagement wasn't very good because the user interface wasn't very appealing. But today, everyone wants to use Netflix. They want to go on there, to relax, because as soon as you log in, you are seeing the movies that you want, right? So it keeps you subscribed longer than you even anticipate to, right? So now, but how do we now, as product managers, how do we now show the raw data that we have, different from what Netflix has? How do we show it in a way that's appealing? Is there just one specific way? Are there different ways of showing that data in a way that's compelling, right? It's not compelling, rather. So there are some things that we need to take into consideration. One is the clarity of your visuals, right? And one thing to know is that good visuals will simplify complexity for you. If you have complex data and you have very good visuals, it's going to simplify that complexity for you. So your stakeholders don't need to go through that process because your visualization is helping them tell the story. But a bad visual will amplify confusion, not just for your stakeholders, even for you. I don't know if you've seen visuals where you have a pie chart, you have a funnel chart, you have charts everywhere, and there is no logical sequence to that chart, and you're wondering, okay, what do I focus on? where do I go after this? There is no logical sequence to that data, right? There is no clarity, and it's very confusing. So data visualization is not, or it is not only just to have maps or have pictures, but it's the only way, right, for you to communicate your insights very well. And it's only effective if it clearly communicates those insights without overwhelming or misleading your audience, right? And so these three principles of clarity, accuracy, and simplicity, those three principles needs to be taken into consideration. The first one, ensuring that your visual tells a clear story, right? Every chart or graph that you use should tell one story, not multiple stories, just a single story. They should tell a story, and that story has to be very clear. You don't need to add unnecessary elements, right? You just remove all of those. An example, I actually wanted this to be practical. I wish I could just use my Excel and make this practical. So I'll just create a mental picture for you. So imagine that you have a bar chart, and this bar chart you're trying to measure sales of products in different regions. Let's say you have Africa and all these other continents, and you have your highest sales, you have your lowest sales, and in between there are other continents where you have sales. But what you actually want to highlight is that, oh, we are doing very well in this region, and we're doing poorly in this region, and probably we need to refine what we're doing. So how do you now improve that visual in such a way that your stakeholders are focusing on those two elements? So I want to hear from you. How would you improve that visual? A bar chart, either a bar chart or a column chart that has different bars or different columns, but you only want your stakeholders to focus on two things: the highest revenue, the region with the highest revenue, and the region with the lowest revenue. How would you improve that visual? Anyone? I hope we're still together.
Yes, we are. Yeah, please feel free to show with a raise of hand if you'd like to answer the question.
So you
Okay,
just have yeah,
Jacob, can you maybe
Yeah.
go over the question again so that
So you have a bar chart, and this bar chart has bars of different regions. Let's say different continents: Africa, Europe, Asia, South America, North America, and all of that. And you want to show your stakeholders the region with the highest generating revenue and the region with the lowest generating revenue, without them focusing on the other regions in between. So you just want to highlight those two. How do you improve that visual so that your stakeholders only focus on those two regions with the highest and the lowest generating revenue? How would you improve the bar chart or column chart? Yes, please.
Okay, there's a comment here. Okay, I'll just read it out. So Emmanuel is saying it would select matching colors.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, there's an option for pop-up. But
Okay.
I'm also thinking maybe like indicating, right? Like just basically indicating it with the color. So region with the highest what's it called? Region with the highest I've forgotten the metrics
Revenue.
now. Revenue, and the region with the lowest revenue. So let's say blue for highest and then red for like lowest.
Okay. And what about the countries in between? Or the regions in between?
Okay, so for regions in between, how can we do that? Is there a way you can, maybe show us on Excel so that it's clearer? Okay, so Emmanuel is saying use dots.
Dots. Okay.
We can use dots for that.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah. Okay, remove the middle region. That's Paul's suggestion. So
Okay.
yeah, remove the ones that you're not concentrating on.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Those comments are very good and very helpful. Now, so the last two comments leads me to the second part. I'll also come back to the question. So removing the two elements. So the second one now talks about accuracy, right? You want to avoid misleading charts, such as distorted axis, inappropriate scaling. They can result in incorrect conclusions, because now if you remove those elements, your stakeholders are probably thinking, okay, we did not have sales in those regions. We only have sales in these two other regions. So you've given a wrong interpretation to your story. And, the integrity of your data is now removed. So you don't want to remove anything. You still want to keep it, but you just don't want them to focus on it. So I like the first comment that talks about colors. Colors are very important in visualization. And so one way of doing this is I think it was the second comment where someone said that give a color blue to the highest generating revenue, and then the other one another color. That's great. In fact, that's something that I would highly recommend. Now, before you do that, if you have it in Excel, you can gray out every chart, gray out all the other regions, right? So you're using color gradients. So once you've grayed out everything, you now highlight your highest generating revenue and give it a color. So let's say green, right? To show that, okay, this is performing very well, and it's a region that is doing very well and is meeting expectations. And then the lowest generating revenue, you can give it maybe a color red to show, oh, it's some danger, right? So when I'm looking at that visualization, even though the other elements are there, because human beings are drawn to colors, my attention is going to be drawn to those two regions where the colors are actually bold and they are calling for my attention. The others are grayed out. It's not completely blurred out, but it's also not overshadowing those two other elements. I hope that's clear enough. That's just one way of visualizing that. Do we understand that concept?
Yes, that's very clear.
All right, thank you. So that's one way of visualizing it. Another way of visualizing it is using color gradients, right? So you can, maybe you're using red, or let's say you're using green. So the gradient of each region can show from highest to lowest, where the highest is very dark, and then the lowest region is now painted to show that, okay, there is hierarchy in terms of the revenue that we generated. So that's another way of visualizing it. So you are still telling the story, but you're still, and without distorting the accuracy of the data that you have. So you want to keep the integrity of that data, but at the same time, you're still telling the story that you want to tell, not the story that your stakeholders are telling. You drive the narrative of that story that you want your stakeholders to get. And then the last element that I would focus here is simplicity. There is always this tendency to want to pack everything in your visualization. You want to tell every story, oh, we did this, we did A, B, C, D, A to Z. You don't really need to do that. Pick one element, pick one story, and tell that story very well, right? So, for example, let's take user reviews. Users are saying, oh, the software is too slow. The user interface is this. That problem is there. That problem is there. You can't focus on every problem. So pick maybe 2-3 problems and then tell a story from those problems, and then tell that narrative from the perspective of your user. And then that way you are still telling the compelling story. And then maybe after you've reviewed that project, you can now come to another element and then work on that. The danger of having unnecessary elements, right, is because now the narrative story you are going to tell now is going to be jumbled up with so many things, and your stakeholders are not sure what to focus on, right? So you now have the data. Let the data, tell the story for you. These are the top 3 problems that we have. This is why we have these problems. These are the suggestions that we have, top 3 suggestions. And this is what I recommend on how we can do that. So you want to keep it, I'm always an advocate of keeping it minimalist, keep it short, keep it simple, and tell a very compelling story through that. An example of this is Airbnb, right? They use data visualizations to improve the UI UX, the search algorithm, by using what's the thing they use now? By mapping user behaviors, right? They analyze how users filter settings, going from price range the location of the users, the amenities that you're interested in. So they now visualize all these trends. And how do they visualize this? They use heat maps and distribution charts, right, to tell where users are actually spending more time in. And this, over time, if you use this Airbnb quite often, you notice that the UI has improved every time. And it makes users to find relevant listings, right? And it has improved their booking rates. And overall, their user experiences have improved over time. I think someone wanted to say something. Okay, so another concept that just came to my mind now is having context, right? Having context to your visualization and your storytelling. It's always helpful to provide comparison and explanations. And then having this, I've talked about your colors and the contrast, using it wisely instead of bombarding your visuals with colors. Another example, yeah, this is in fact this is a very good example. Take Spotify, for example. I want to believe a good number of us use Spotify. And at the end of the year, Spotify gives you what they call Spotify Wrapped. And so now it features things like your listening, your engagement, and all of that, right? It turns all of that listening data into shareable visuals. And you see people sharing about their visuals. Oh, you listen to this number of songs, you spend this number of minutes. So it's telling a narrative. It has taken all of that raw data, the music you listen to the most, your best artist, and all of that. So they've used all those elements to tell a compelling story that users now feel, oh, this is my favorite artist. This is my best song. I've listened to this song for this number of minutes. I've used Spotify for this number of minutes. So you want to keep it simple. You want to keep it clear, and you want it to be engaging. And I also want you to remember that a good visualization tells story with data, not just telling numbers, but it tells stories. But a bad visualization would only tell you numbers, right? So, and that is what Spotify has achieved very, very well in terms of turning those numbers into a compelling narrative and a compelling story. So now, how do we choose the right visualization? So before I continue, I just want to get a quick gauge from you guys. Which visualization do you use the most? Which visualization have you used the most? That's if you've used visualization before or not. So I just want to get an idea for you. Which visualization have you used the most and why?
Bar charts.
Bar charts. Okay. Why?
I think because it actually shows the information a lot better, like the statistics
Okay.
and the differentiation between the data.
Okay. Okay. All right. Bar charts. All right. That's good. All right. Who else? What charts do you use the most? Or what visual do you use the most? I want to hear from you guys.
Hi, I would say pie chart, bar chart and then pie chart, because
Why pie chart?
it's easy to compare, and then you can color, you can do 3D. It just shows vivid, like it just gives you context,
Okay.
Yes, it gives the data context.
Can we use them interchangeably?
Yes.
Can you replace a bar chart for a pie chart? Do they do the same thing?
No, they don't.
Okay, can you give us cases in which you would use a bar chart and cases in which you use pie chart?
Okay, so I think they do the same thing. So based on the last report that I created, I was trying to give feedback on the events that happened, and so I used say bar chart to say, oh, the participants came from this country, so, and then the pie charts, total number of women versus percentage of women versus percentage of men. So I think it's just based on what works, because yes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So thank you both of you. So choosing the right visualization is please go ahead. I think is that a hand or a message?
Yes. I wanted to like comment on that. I think for me, I
Okay.
use line charts mostly because I like to see like the progressions and where like
Mm,
I have because of I used to work in fintech, so like for fintech, I like to see like, oh, where did I get like most active customers for this month? Like where did they
okay.
where are the drop offs and stuff? So I like to see like how the lines are moving like in slow, like going down, coming up, going down like that. I don't know. So I use line
Mm,
charts mostly. Doesn't mean I
okay.
don't still use the bar chart and stuff for like other things, but when I want to like see like how has my app done in the past few months and stuff like that, I basically use
Mhm.
line charts to do that.
Okay. Oh, nice. Very good. So what, what I've got right here is that the right visualization is it's very crucial, right? Because the wrong visualization can distort your message. Like the last week, she said she wants to track over time, right? How is it done in the last 3 months, in the last 1 year? What are the drop off points? Now, for the drop off points, I would recommend a different chart. I'll probably get to that later on, right? But data without context is basically just I don't even know what to call it. So when you're choosing your visualization, there has to be a context to it. And what we see today is we see everywhere is just people having maps and things everywhere without proper context to it. So I'm just going to run through quickly through some of these charts and what they do. So the first one is a line chart. Like the last speaker said, over time, I want to see what it's saying. So it helps us to check trends over time. It's best for visualizing that. One is retention rate, right? You want to see your user retention over a period of time. In which month did my user retention drop? When did it rise? So you're able to see that. So it's basically for checking trends over time, over a period of time. That's what line charts are best for. And then now you have your bar chart, right? Bar charts, column charts, very similar, almost the same thing. So these are used ideal. They're ideal for comparisons. When you want to compare things. One, let's say, for example, you want to compare, let's say you want to compare feature adoption rates, right, amongst different user segments. So you want to see, okay, which user segment is adopting this feature over another user segment? How is this segment comparing with this and that? So yeah, it's used for comparison. You want to see how something is doing against another. So that's both your bar chart and your column chart. Very useful for that. And I think that's something that project managers use a lot. You always want to compare. Let's say you want to compare the last visualized UI UX that you developed and the next UI UX user interface that you developed. How are they performing compared to each other, right? This new feature that we introduced, what's going on with it? If we remove that feature, what's the effect? So you're able to compare all of that. Then the one that I see that a lot of people misuse is the pie chart, right? The pie chart is one of the most misused charts, and pie chart is useful for proportions, but I'll always suggest that you use it sparingly. It's used to show distribution, parts of a whole. You want to show, let's say, for example, you want to show gender, right? Let's say you have male and female. You want to show how many male, how many female. So you see that proportion. But now, if you're using bar chart, where we talked about the example I gave earlier on, right? Talking about feature adoption. If you use the pie chart for that, you're not going to get the most accurate interpretation of that data because you cannot show parts of a whole. So the adoption rate last month and the adoption rate this month, they're not part of the same whole. You are comparing those two data. Even though you are still comparing parts of the whole, you're showing the proportion, how they make up the whole segment. So let's say another example of parts of a whole is, let's say, demographics, right? You want to show adoption of maybe adults, young adults, youth, the elderly. You want to show, so you can now see the whole population, and out of the whole user population that we have, 75% are female. Sorry, why do I keep going back to male and female? 75% are between ages 45 to 60, 20% between these ages. So you are now showing the composition of that data. So pie chart is usually used for composition. And also, I always recommend that keep it minimal. If what you have to show parts of the whole of is becoming more than 5, you probably want to use a bar chart for that, because it's like a pizza. If I have a pizza and I'm not giving you, this small slices, it's not going to be useful for you, and the comparison loses its effect. So you want to keep it to maximum of 5 comparisons at most, right? Or if possible, 3 or 4, preferable. Anything more than that, convert that visual into a bar chart or into a column chart. The next visualization is the scatter plot, right? Now, the scatter plot is useful for showing correlation between 2 variables, right? Let's say you want to show customer engagement and your churn rate. One is on the x-axis, one is on the y-axis. So you are showing the correlation, how one is correlated to the other. So another example of this, I'll go back to Spotify. So Spotify uses these to enhance the user experience by analyzing the user listening habits, which I mentioned earlier on, right? So they use heat maps. I think someone mentioned I forgot what the person mentioned. I said I'll get back to that. So this is where it now becomes useful, where you're using heat maps to track and understand your users. At what point are they spending more time, right? At what point are they, having challenges? So heat maps helps you identify that. And Spotify has mastered that very well. So they also use trend graphs to understand the peak listening times. Users are usually listening to music on our platform from this time to this time. So the software is now what's it called now? That's this thing that I'm looking for. The server is now optimized so that within that time, during that time period, there is no system failure, because they know they're going to have more engagement on that time. So it allows them to also recommend personalized playlists, right? Like there's a feature that they use, discovery of the week, right? And then they also, they can also adjust their algorithms to keep users engaged over time based on the user listening habits. So you can use different charts. So another heat map is something that was useful for product managers, especially if you're using a platform like, say, Amazon. Those who are using all these sales e-commerce websites. You want to know which feature is actually giving our users problem. Where are they spending more time? Which item are they clicking more on? So those heat maps will tell you and can help you identify pain points of your users, and then optimize those to give them to give your users the best and optimum feature on your website. So now there are some tools that product managers use quite often. So I've tried to work on this. I don't know if you guys have used any of these tools. If you've used any of these tools, you can just give me a thumbs up, or you can just unmute and just tell me what's your experience with each of these tools.
So I've used Google Analytics and Mixpanel. I've used Power BI, right? But like Google, with Google, it's been more of like when I worked on websites, just having to like track like the traffic, like where is it coming from, the location. That's just like having to like look at how the distribution of my users and stuff like that, and like how often people come, and like what are they interacting with basically, and like where are the drop-offs happening basically. Then from this panel, I used it to track app usage. So that was like mostly when we're building an app, so like a fintech app. So like was it to track app usage, and like so on a day-to-day, on a week, on a daily, weekly, monthly, I want to know like adoption, and I want to know like where are like the drop-offs happening, and like what feature are they using mostly. So that was what I used Miss Panel for. So like I like how Miss Panel worked, that you could like you could download your report, you could put it in a very it's not too hard to use, so like can easily it has done most of the job for you. Just need to like put it together, just export and like use it to do your presentation or show your stakeholders. Wow, with Power BI, no, not Power BI, it's a local studio I use. So I've only seen it, but like I've not really interacted with it like that. Basically. Yeah.
All right, so which is your favorite tool of all the tools you've used?
I would say Mixed Panel. Yeah, I think that's my favorite. I think to a large extent. Maybe next local studio. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me take one more person. Let me hear from one more person. I'm sure you guys have at least one of these tools you've used.
Okay, hi, good evening. I
Good
will
evening.
speak to SQL and Excel
Okay.
for analysis that you have large chunk of transactions. You're trying to draw out data from a database. I've used SQL before. Though SQL could be, it's had some little intricacies, but if you are quite familiar with it, it's very good for when you're bringing out data from a database.
Right.
Then for Excel, you can also use it for analysis, filtering, sorting, doing some form of data analysis for data that are not so much.
Right.
Because once they are so much, it's be difficult to use Excel and get the best results. So the easier way of it is going to be SQL. So that's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, you guys have quite a number of tools at your disposal for analyzing and visualizing your data. But the best visualization tool is the one that makes your insights impossible to ignore, right? And the key to selecting the tool that aligns with your needs, whether it's your user behavior, you're tracking retention, you're tracking churn rate, whatever you're tracking, right? And having quick analysis and creating interactive dashboards. It's knowing which visualization tool is best for that. So each of these visualization tools, they have their own different uses. So the first speaker said, Google Analytics is for tracking your user behavior and maybe data manipulation and then on Excel, right, for data manipulation and doing your exploratory data. And the one that's very popular for visualization and business intelligence now is Power BI, right? Tableau to some extent. A lot of industries probably don't use Tableau as much compared to Power BI. Because of the collaborative nature of Power BI. It creates an ecosystem for them, right? And then you have your A/B testing, which is used to, what's the word now? To run experiments, right? To optimize your product features. But the good thing is you don't need to know or to use all of these tools, right? Because a tool is only as good as the story that it helps you tell. It's not compulsory that you know all of these tools. Just know that, okay, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is the tool that helps me achieve that, right? And an example is Amazon, right? They rely heavily on data visualization, which helps them to enhance their shopping experience of their users, optimize their operations, and ultimately, just for like every organization, to increase their revenue. So they're using real-time data visualization tool like Power BI, and in fact, they have their own inbuilt visualization tool that helps them analyze their data, customer browsing, their purchase behavior, and it is constantly, as long as you're using their platform, it's constantly refining your behaviors and refining the correct recommendation that's given to you, and then it's always displaying the most relevant products for each user that comes on that platform, because they're using the best visualization tool that can achieve that. And it ultimately leads to increased user experience, user engagement, and increased conversion of users, so that they're making the best out of it. So like I said, most companies today, they don't use Tableau anymore, but Power BI. A few people still use Tableau, right? But they use Power BI to now track their KPIs. So I think someone said she uses she works with InDrive and they're trying to create something. So like InDrive now, I'm not sure, I don't know how InDrive works. I've never used it, but I've used Uber quite often. And so what Uber does is they use it to track to track the rider's demands. And the visualization that they have, it's easy to understand because the user can now see the availability, and then they see live dashboards of where users are concentrated using those maps. So it helps them to now, the drivers to know, okay, this is where I want to be, this is where I need to go. They can see the rate at which users are willing to pay. So now, how do we now create the best visualization instead of just creating any visualization, right? How do we create visualizations that are actionable, right? Visualization that that will yield the most produce the most effect, right? And one thing is an effective dashboard, right? It leads to clarity, right? And it creates real-time insights that leads to decision-making instead of just overwhelming with excessive data. And your dashboard should be a compass, not a puzzle. It's not something that your stakeholders should be struggling to, fit together. It should be like a compass that directs them in the direction to go, right? And as product managers, right, you want to focus on key metrics that aligns with the goals of the organization or the business that you're working with. And you want to ensure that the most critical insights, as soon as your stakeholders are looking at it, they spot it immediately, right? So your well-designed dashboard should prioritize usability, interactivity, and storytelling. All of those things must be achieved. But the most importantly, it should prioritize interactivity and storytelling. It should tell a compelling story. So I'll give another example of Uber, right? Uber has used real-time dashboards for their customers, right? For their drivers. And the platform optimizes it by providing real-time dashboards that tracks ride demands. It estimates the earnings that they're going to get even before they accept it, right? It gives them the navigation to know, okay, this is the best route to take, so that the driver can, okay, do I want to take this ride? Which way am I going to get? How do I get there faster? And then pick up another ride, right? And it helps them make informed decisions, because now they can see all of those visuals and then make an informed decision whether it's the best offer for them, or they can decline that ride and say, let me pick another ride. So that's what the best visualization do. It prioritizes clarity, it prioritizes usability, and it prioritizes storytelling, right? And creates that interactivity for users. So you want to make sure that your dashboard achieves all of that. And some key principles that I want you to take, one is you want to define your metrics, all right? Even before you're creating that dashboard. What really matters? Is it your retention rate? Is it your churn rate? Is it the drop-off point? You want to define what those key metrics are. And then once you're creating that dashboard, you want to keep it simple. I said earlier, you don't want to load it with so many things. You want to avoid clutter, but at the same time, you want to highlight essential trends. You want to highlight comparisons. You want to show composition. And then I talked about the interactivity of your platform. So you want to use filters. You want to use slicers to show how to make it interactive, so that when I can compare different things. So let's say, I have this dashboard and I want to see, okay, for this area, Lagos. In Lagos, this is how many users I have. This is the churn rate. This is the retention rate. And then you can change the other location and then say, okay, for mail in Lagos, this is the data that I have. So you're able to filter and see how one metric affects the other metric. So, and I think Uber has done that very effectively in helping their drivers do that. So now in creating this, there are some common mistakes that I've noticed. Sorry, I'm moving very fast. I'm trying to keep within your timing. And there's one section activity I want us to do before we finish. So some common mistakes that I've seen in dashboards is overloading with information, right? You want to put so many things, but one thing that will always help you is being minimalistic. Keep it short, keep it simple, keep it focused, right? It will drive the best metric for you, right? Sometimes the best data can lose its impact if you don't visualize it properly, right? If it is misleading, right? In fact, I believe that a misleading chart is better than no chart at all. So you want to avoid having misleading charts, using the wrong chart, right? An example of this is using a pie chart instead of using trends, right? It's a misleading data because your pie chart is just showing composition. It's not showing how it moves from one period over another, right? And a bar chart also is not best for, it's not the best fit for distribution. You don't want to use that for distribution also. Then the last one I would probably focus on is your data integrity, right? You don't want to use skewed scales. I've seen visuals where your skill, instead of starting from 0, you're now starting from 500. So instead of having a scale from 0 to 1,000, you now start from 600 to 1,000. And while it may be good, but it can be misleading sometimes because your stakeholders may not see that your scale is starting from 600. So they're now looking at, oh, this bar is very big. Whereas when you now start from 0 to 1,000, it's not as big. So the comparison of those charts is now distorted and the integrity of your data is now lost. So you don't want it to lead to incomplete or incorrect conclusions. So you want to stay away from that. One classic example of this is the 2008 financial crisis, right? It's led to lots of catastrophe. During that financial crisis, risk assessment models, they underestimated the mortgage default probabilities because they failed to, what's the word now? They failed to account for extreme economic conditions, right? So the poor visualization that they had, it led to a lot of decisions not being the right decisions. A lot of them believed that the market was more stable than it actually was. But if the right visualization was properly used, we probably would not have had that 2008 financial crisis that almost crippled the whole world economic what's the word now? Economic landscape at that time. So having the proper visualization is very important. So before I call it a day, I want us to have some conversation together. So I want you to imagine, you are a product manager at a growing e-commerce, right? The e-commerce is growing, it's expanding. And you notice that while many users add products to that chart, but you now have a significant drop-off before completing the checkout process. So I want you to now visualize what kind of data you would analyze and how you would analyze that visual. So an example is Amazon, right? Before we start that conversation, I'll just give you an example. Like Amazon, right? It optimizes its checkout process by constantly testing their design elements. They're removing unnecessary fields every time. They're introducing one-click purchases every time. And that has, to a large extent, it has reduced the number of items that are abandoned in cart. So that's an example of an e-commerce and how they analyze their data and how they visualize it. So I want to hear from you guys. What would you analyze and how would you visualize whatever metric you want to analyze? I want to hear from you guys. What are some KPIs that you would want to track if you are working with a growing e-commerce platform? I heard someone saying you work with an e-commerce platform earlier on. I want to hear from you guys. You can unmute, please. I'm not able to see the comments and hands being raised, so I don't know if the moderator can help me with that, please.
All right, sure. Okay.
Thank you.
There are currently no hands raised.
Okay.
Yeah, but to answer all right, Chidima, you can go.
All right. So I just want to try.
Okay.
Right. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking if there is like a high drop-off rate at checkout, I
Okay.
feel like there would be a problem. Like there's definitely something wrong. That is why there's like no purchase, but they're dropping off at checkout. So it would be that we have to work on maybe um sorry, I'm skipping. So okay, it would be that we can look at maybe their drop-off rates, like why are they dropping off?
Okay.
And maybe things like if their payments are failing, why are they failing? Like things we have to ask questions like to know the reason why they're actually dropping off. So those are the metrics we're going to look at. And we can now use things like bar charts to compare maybe to compare things like I'm thinking. Okay, maybe we can compare things like their network. I
Okay.
don't know if it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking. Yeah, so
That's
that's what I'm thinking right now.
okay. Okay. Thank you. That's very good. I like the fact that you mentioned the drop-off rate. That's very important. Okay. Any
All
other
right.
opinion? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I want to hear
Okay,
from other
so
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a comment here from Emmanuel. So Emmanuel is saying growth metric, purchase metric, and churn metric.
Okay. How would you visualize those? How would you visualize those KPIs that you mentioned, those metrics? Emmanuel, I would like to hear from you how you would visualize those. While we're waiting for Emmanuel, anyone else wants to go? I mean, you guys are product managers, so this is an example of a product. So what would you want to measure as a product manager? This is your product and you want to improve on this product because you have a high drop-off rate. What would you be looking at and how would you visualize it?
Okay, so I think just like okay, so Emmanuel said scatter plot for
Okay.
churn and then pie chart for growth.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Okay, just to like add to that, right? So just like Chidima had said, drop off rate is one, and then even the similar to drop off, like the cat abandonment rate as well. So usually if people leave their cat unattended to, there could be like
Right.
no reasons why that is happening. So I guess that's where we'll now get tools like Google Analytics and Mixpanel to also analyze that as well. So is it that the checkout process is not as easy as they would want it? Are they finding it difficult to? So let's say, for instance, they're adding multiple items to cart, but they are not able to maybe check out easily because it's maybe, for instance, it's probably not calculating giving not calculating the amount well, or even probably the delivery cost. It could be anything, or even the cost of the item as well, or it could just be like a UI thing, right, where they just cannot maybe a button is inactive, maybe the checkout button itself is not working and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'll take one more before I give my comments. One more. Anyone? Okay, so those are very good metrics that you guys have mentioned. So one thing that the most important one is probably where the checkout process, where in that process do users drop off the most, right? So that's the most obvious metric. So you want to find out where do they drop off the most. And the kind of chart you can use for that is probably a funnel chart, right? Which illustrates the step-by-step drop off in the checkout process. So the funnel chart will show, okay, most people drop off here. And then for those who are still there, they drop off at this point. For those who are still there, it shows you step by step, right? So the funnel chart will probably visualize where the drop-off process happens the most. And then you also want to look at, are there commonalities amongst those who abandon the carts? You mentioned earlier, Google Analytics can help you with that in terms of the device type that they're using, the location, right? The payment method that they're using. So all of this you can get. If it's a device type, okay, maybe it's those who are using mobile, the drop-off rate is very high. So what is it about those who are using mobile that is causing the drop-off rate? So you want to know that. And maybe it's for people who are in Kaduna State, and a lot of them are dropping off, right? So you want to know, for those who are dropping off, is it maybe network at that location? Is it maybe the delivery process in that location? The time of delivery is taking longer. So you want to look at those things. And then the payment method, right? So for those, maybe the payment method that we're having high drop-off rate is maybe we don't have payment on delivery. So when we get to the payment stage, a lot of people are looking for payment on delivery, and we don't offer that, so they drop off. So those are things that you can look into, right? And then you can ask, okay, maybe if we introduce this feature, it could actually drive more people from completing those conversions. And then you also want to, how does your checkout experience for your users compared to your competitors, right? So you want to see how that process, is it easier for them with you, or is it easier for them with your competitors? Are there so many steps that your users have to go through? For example, with Amazon, single click purchase is what Amazon is using now, right? Click and then I go to checkout, so I can easily do that. Or is yours, okay, you click, then you now select this, then you select that before you actually get to the end. Users will get tired and they'll just drop off. So those are the things that you're looking at. Now you can also use heat maps to identify where users are spending the most time on your page. So once you use that heat map, you can actually know that, okay, users are spending more time on the checkout page. Maybe because they're looking for a payment type that they want, right? Or maybe users are spending more time on the homepage, perhaps trying to navigate, the different sections that they're looking for. So if they're spending more time on the homepage before navigating to a different specific session, then you may want to look at, okay, how do we now improve on the UI UX so that they can identify the different sections that they're looking at. Another chart that may be useful is the bar chart, and someone mentioned, to compare your conversion rates, right? Conversion rates could be based on payment methods, it could be based on shipping options, it could be based on payments delivery period, right? So you could compare all of those. So you're using a bar chart or a column chart to make all of those comparisons. And then I don't know how many of you use A/B testing. So you can do A/B test results to show improvements after your UI UX changes must have been implemented. So you use that to check how your products or your interface has improved over time. So that's how you can now tell a compelling story and improve your product. Before I close, I don't know if you guys have any questions. I'd like to take your questions, but as I close, I just want to say that, as a product manager, right, you're not just, you don't just make decisions, you actually drive, narratives that leads to action. And the best product decisions that are being made are backed by clear, insightful, and well-structured or well-communicated data. And I believe that you guys are product managers are doing an awesome job, especially in Nigeria today, with a lot of products being churned out. And it's always thanks to product managers, because you guys listen to customers and you're meeting their needs. So thank you for giving us the best products in Nigeria. So while I'm at that, if you have any questions, I'd like to take your questions. You have comments, I'd appreciate those comments so that we can discuss and answer those questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacob. Thank you for that really amazing session. We can take one or two questions before we close out. Does anybody have any question? You can indicate with a show of hand. Okay. I'm guessing no question because the session was really interactive. Okay. Let me see. Oh, okay. So for the recording, it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel as quickly as possible. So please just be on the lookout, and we'll also let you know once that upload is done. All right. Thank you so much, Jacob. That session was really amazing. I did learn a lot. Yeah, so I believe we can all connect with Jacob on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. So Jacob, feel free to, share your handle as on the chat box as well. But you can connect with Jacob on LinkedIn using his name, Jacob AJALA, and you'd find him. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. this webinar session. If this is your first, then it's good that you joined. This is PIP webinar. Webinar sessions like this happen twice a month, on the second and fourth Thursday of every month by 7 p.m. We also have interview prep session, which is held every second Tuesday in a month. We have bi-weekly check-in calls that happen every second Saturday. And finally, you can join our Slack community if you haven't. So I'll drop the link to that as well. And for just to make it easier for, I think it was Ayo that asked the question about recording. So I'll drop the link as well to the People in Product YouTube channel. So you can, click it, subscribe, and then, turn on post notification to get notified once this recording is dropped. Thank you so very much, Jacob. We do hope to, hear from you again soon. Thank you everyone for joining
Thank
the
you
call.
for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.